minds. He is free for the incredible work.
No, I agree, but let's shift gears on limited time. For those that don't know, Ron Paul's come out and said, okay, it looks like we're not going to be able to win with 20% of the delegates. Go there and be respectful. Be respectful of all the stuff the Republican machine's done. I don't like that. And I'm allowed as an evil American to have my views here. And Ron Paul said 4 years ago, we put them on the map early on with half their contributions from my show. And we've been there the entire time. I'm telling you, my listeners, 95%, we've got polls going, are very upset. I'm just saying the campaign needs to be clear about this. And if people have been speaking for them that aren't right, or if things have gotten off track, they need to get back on track right now. That's my question to you, Adam, with your hand on the pulse of the grassroots. Is this as explosively dangerous to the whole Paul Inc., which I want to continue and be constitutional, as I see it being dangerous?
Well, in a way, Ron Paul Inc. is now at odds with the movement that Ron inspired, and that's the challenge here. And really, this falls at Ron's feet, and you're correct. And Alex, I hope to see you in Tampa. Are you going to be there?
I wasn't going to go. I was going to let everybody just go. But now that we're being told we behave ourselves, I think I am going to have to come.
Just so that you can disbehave. Sure. Well, there's this problem between the grassroots and the campaign now because of lack of direction. And that really does fall at Ron's feet. You know, I'm organizing the Veterans for Ron Paul March on the RNC. Ron Paul is the choice of the troops.com, having gotten more campaign.
You better behave yourself. Wait a minute. Don't you embarrass Mittens.
Well, we're going to go and make a scene and do what Ron Paul said in his latest email, saying that we are going to force the establishment to listen to the liberty message. We are going to force them. We are going to be in their faces with that. So I'm running with that. And Ron Paul.
So what's going on here? We've got a mixed message, I guess, to make Romney feel good and cozy up to Rand. And then you've got Paul with his message to the original troops.
Well, everybody's looking at Ron Paul, and the million-dollar question is, what is he going to do with all of this momentum? Is he going to demand a speaking spot? And if he does, what's he going to say? Is he going to call out?
Yeah, that's not enough. That's not enough. We want to go take it over and have a huge fracas or run third party to inject real issues.
Or have the culmination of the Ron Paul revolution be Secretary of the Transportation Department, Rand Paul. And I don't think that's going to cut it either. So there's this idea that the Republican Party is the face of the military-industrial complex. The real purpose of the Republican establishment is to subvert the legitimate American will to freedom, the desire to create a truly American society and pervert it with interventionism, to pervert it with the modern warfare
The
state.
opposite of what George Washington stood for. Empire America versus Republic America.
And that's why Jesse Benton may have been sent by the establishment to get Trygve Olsen into Ron's inner circle and to support Rand Paul and to convince Ron to do all of these things that are contrary to his message. So Ron is a human being.
Are you saying this is idiocy, or are you saying there is a Benedict Arnold in the woodpile?
It's both. It is absolutely both. And I can tell you decisively it is both. And as Ron Paul supporters, we have to acknowledge his shortcomings as well. He is not the greatest organizational leader. He is not the greatest commander of the movement. He is not going to be the one who is going to give direction and organize and take charge. And to be fair, to be absolutely perfectly fair as we should be with Ron, he's demonstrated poor judgment in the past. If you look at the racist newsletters, and I'm not saying that Ron is racist, that's absolute crap, but as he admitted himself, it was a failure of oversight.
It was a big business. They had dozens of people, 10 or 15 different versions, yeah.
So I don't know how much it's Ron's actual shortcomings as an organizational leader and or his gullibility and how far that goes to explaining what's going on. But on the other side, you also have the Benedict Arnolds. You have Rand Paul now endorsing Mitt Romney, and there may be some strategy behind that, but clearly he's not serving the message. I mean, we should not be surprised that warmongering Rand Paul, who voted for the act of war against Iran of sanctions, is now supporting the other pro-war candidate.
Wow, you're calling him warmongering. I think he went with that as a second path or a third path to not having war.
Well, that's like, hey, let's just have a little bit of war. Let's just have a little bit of tyranny and fascism. But there are lots of...
stay there. Final segment. I'll have to go into overdrive to take calls. And if you don't have time, I got the nightly news to do. Man, this is crazy. But we as Ron Paul supporters, we put him on the map. We're allowed to get angry.
Hi.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're not backing off. We're constitutionalists. We're going to kick the foreign banks out of this country. We're going to restore the republic. We've had incredible success using Ron Paul as a vehicle to educate people. The fight goes on. Talking to Adam Kokesh, I've talked to senior people. They've sat out there when they've been guests on the show, senior in the campaign, and said, what's going on here and there? And they're like, oh, man, they don't know what they're doing. They're like 25 years old. The people that are older on the campaign actually aren't running things. But I never said all that on air. So I want to think it's been, because nobody's perfect when you're in the arena, this fog of political war, all of that. But whoever told Ron Paul to come out and say, after we're going to go and fight with the delegates, to now, well, it's clear we can't win, so we're just going to go and be respectful, and then ran a little too sweetie cake over Mitt Romney. And I understand it's an honor to get considered for vice president. I understand a little lofty power and all that. But I've been offered power and didn't sell out. And look, I was already very successful, probably more so because I didn't sell out. I did it my way, as Frank Sinatra would say. But because you can't compromise with this. There's no way they're going to influence Romney. It's going to be the other way around. And I knew instinctively this morning when I got up and saw this, it's been out since last night, that people weren't going to go along with this. So I don't know. In closing, Adam Kokesh, we're going to come back and overdrive, take a few calls for folks that are holding, but in the 3-4 minutes we have left, repeat what you said to me during the break. Because, and folks, don't press me to say names or I will, okay, about campaign people. I didn't want to go here, but I'm not going to sit by and be told I've got to worship Mitt Romney. It ain't happening. Okay, and it's not that I love Obama. It's just that trick has worn out here. I get the left-right paradigm. I mean, it's either the incompetence or the Benedict Arnold theory. What do you think's happening here?
Well, just to be clear, I think Rand Paul sold out in his heart a long time ago if he ever had something to sell out in the first place. He was never really a libertarian. He never believed in the cause. He voted for sanctions against Iran. That's an act of war. That's not like Ron Paul supporting the Defense of Marriage Act, which is something sort of insignificant around the margins and questionable. This is an act of war. Rand Paul voted for an act of war. The fact that he's supporting Mitt Romney over his father for political expediency should really come as no surprise. But what I was saying is that the actions that we see out of Ron Paul Inc., in some ways a betrayal of the grassroots, are a combination of the, I don't want to say incompetency, but maybe shortcomings of Ron Paul as an organizational leader on one hand, and the corruption of his organization by leeches and those who would subvert what he is actually trying to do on the other. So how much of each constitutes what's actually happening, it's hard to say, but at very least, Jesse Benton is a huge leech on the campaign, grossly overpaid, incredibly incompetent, but we have to see what Ron has been trying to do here. And I got to say, from everything that I've seen, and I don't have time to get into each of the points that has led me to the conclusion that Ron Paul was never running to win in the first place, I don't think that that's what he was doing. I think he was running to get as close to winning without actually being a threat to winning as possible and have as much of an impact on changing the dialogue and helping take over the party as possible.
Yeah, it's an info war, and so this is really his plan, and he needs to come out and state that instead of playing along like he was really moving to win. I mean, not even really fighting for Texas, California. Absolutely. And if they would just be honest with us about the strategy, then it wouldn't be as bad. Do you agree with me, though, this is blowing up big time in their face?
Absolutely. And I think that's a reflection of the fact that there are leeches on Ron Paul's campaign. And I think more people like Jesse Benton, Trivy Olson are the ones trying to set a brand for 2016. Maybe Doug Weed and John Tate, they want to keep the Ron Paul Inc. gravy train going so that they can keep collecting their outsized salaries. But what's more important here is that Ron has still done an incredible amount to spread the message. He has done.
Yeah, don't let this steal our victory. Don't let the mainstream media make this a big wedge issue. See it for what it is. Move forward. Don't let it be a distraction. But let Ron and all them know that we're aware of what's going on, and that we particularly don't like what's happening.
And it's quite possible that people are being threatened. I mean, we don't know. These are violent, dangerous extremists that have taken over our government and taken over the Republican Party and turned it into the war party. So
I hear you. Great job, Adam Kokesh.
Thank you for listening.
We'll talk to you again next week or Sunday. And uphold your family name. I come from good families, good Christian people that never did anything to anybody that didn't have it coming to them. All right, let's go ahead and go back to your calls. Doris in Tennessee, you're on the air. Welcome. What do you think of the whole Rand Paul endorsing Romney while Ron Paul's campaign people were told, keep going on, keep fighting? And Ron Paul saying, go to Tampa, be respectful, worship Mitt Romney. What do you make of this?
I think we've been used. I think we've just been used. I feel used. And I listened to your debate with Webster Tarpley, and God knows I do not agree a lot with Webster Tarpley, but the way that he put it about him being a wingman for Romney, and we all know that, you know, Freemasonry has evolved into a Luciferian cult. And I think Webster Tarpley had some real good points on that.
Yeah, let's do this. Guys, we got Kokesh coming on. Get Tarpley on for 30 minutes at least on Sunday show, 4 to 6 p.m. as well. And just, yeah, stuff came up yesterday when I was going to have him on because he had to go to a TV show or something, and we didn't get it set up. But I want him on Sunday if he'll do it. And I want him Skype, too, because he'll try to go to telephone. We're going to make him do Skype. I hear you, man. We'll get Tarpley on. I was just thinking that myself. I don't agree with his socialist ways, but he's right about his analysis. Let's go ahead and talk to Evan in Florida. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I got a couple comments on the whole thing. It's very discouraging, number one. Number two, I was a little discouraged when he went and even campaigned in Florida because he conceded it to Romney.
No, he didn't fight very much in Texas, none in California, really. In Florida, zero. I mean, I've been having alarms go off the whole time and just going, oh, my God, it's just terrible.
I'm wondering if this is going to this is a plan to drive us to a third party and get a really good organization going, a third party.
Well, it's not that Ron would have even won with a third party, but he'd have got a ton of money, could have really educated people, would have been in the debates, could have actually won maybe. I mean, he was a lot better than Ross Perot, but it didn't happen. And I kept telling people they're just keeping, privately, I wouldn't say this on air, I'd say they're keeping the delegate thing going to catapult Rand and to get campaign contributions. And I'm like, that's not that bad because the Campaign from Liberty will run good candidates, but then a lot of them aren't good. And I'm kind of like, well, I know all this stuff, but I can't totally prove it, so I'm not going to say it on air. And now everything I knew was going to happen in the last few months happened, and it makes me want to throw up. And I tried to say, oh, they're playing politics, it'll be all right. But my gut says, you get out on the air and you attack this, or you won't sleep well tonight. What do you say to that?
Let me just say this, Alex. Ben Swan had a link on Daily Paul, and there's one there now under the Ron Paul email thing on 6612. And what it is, it's a reference to 11 CFR, 42 USC, and 2 USC, saying that there is no binding of delegates. It's illegal under federal law to bind delegates.
I know, but I told everybody that they will... See, it's over, though. It's over. That's one thing I don't have to hear this about delegates anymore. They were never going to use those delegates unless they had the majority because the media would spin it as stealing an election. The media would you understand that. And I had to hear it from my own crew over and over again, and I let them henpeck me. But I told them all, I said, you're wrong, I'm right, watch. And I'm right again. Nightly news, of course, 7 o'clock tonight. And then there's the Sunday show. We're still here, 4 to 6 p.m. Central. I'm Alex Jones.